Okay, good afternoon everyone. It's an honor to be here with you, sharing these very interesting remarks with our distinguished panelists. On this occasion, as Professor Daly pointed out, I'm going to talk about democracy and corruption, since I found out in my research that one of the key problems that faces democracy globally would be corruption, something that obviously is not very hard to see. I'm going to divide my presentation in two big sections. First, the diagnosis on how we stress out the importance that has this fight against corruption to preserve democracy, and then the concrete tools that we propose to avoid this deterioration of the international rule of law and of the constitutional rule of law in the national level. It is well known that one of the problems of democracy right now is an unchecked advance of the technology without a proportional advance of human kindness, as Goethe would have said already. Indeed, our capacity to create harm to others and to corrupt as well, it is growing very fast, but the institutional capacity, the social capacity to address these phenomena is not growing in the same page and the same level. So we have many examples of this: rocket technology, nuclear technology, environmental harm, and more directly related to democracy, the theme of the fake news, right? So we all remember what happened in the taking of the violent takeover of the Capitol in the United States that was promoted by the media, the social media, that was unchecked, and now we're living a new phase of this when Elon Musk, precisely South Africa, would put back Donald Trump in this Twitter media. So now we have a big debate over the limits of freedom of expression and the fake news that so badly affect democracy. Many international constitutional systems have suffered this kind of polarization because of the internet. We also have this debate in the Brexit, because there was a rampant misinformation of the people and no control over this. So this is just some of the big examples of the problematics that technology brings over us. I just point out these topics because corruption has also used these technological means to improve their wrong aims, right? Not only corruption, but all sorts of criminality are using technology, particularly through the international financial system. So we have many cases of rampant criminality, pedophiles, right? Child pornography is growing, like human trafficking is growing more than ever. We talk about slavery, but nowadays we have like the worst slavery in history. It just happens to the computer of the people, and there's nothing has been done through the international instruments, or there's no judicial cooperation in the international level to tackle any of these wrongdoings. So in this scenario, it is important, now that we know what is going on for the state of law, for the rule of law, it is important to propose some tools to fight this. We have that these wrongdoers, these evil persons that like to steal from the public arts, they have used means that are accepted legally, such as tax havens, right? This is legally accepted, and money laundering, right? Money laundering that has been rampantly accepted by countries such as Switzerland, right? With the Swiss banks accepting money without asking where these resources come from. So we have like a double morality in the international community, where we know that there are crimes committed all around the world, crimes against democracy. We condemn them from first world countries, but still we would receive happily the money coming from these illegal activities. I have a big example of this that is very recent, and is the crisis with Russia. As you all remember, the first step taken by the European Union against Russia was confiscating the yachts of the Russian oligarchs. So after many, many years of accepting corruption in Russia, only after they invaded Ukraine, we start thinking, why are we taking this money from these guys, or these corrupt guys, or these oligarchs that have put in power this autocratic government in the Russian Federation? So now, recently, because of the war, we run to confiscate these yachts, But when this money came to the Swiss banks originally, and when countries like Germany negotiated with Russia, nobody questioned this. And then we come to the German question as well, because this is also a current debate. We have the debate over Chancellor Schroeder. You would excuse me for my bad German. But Chancellor Schroeder, after being the Chancellor of Germany and negotiating with Gazprom, the Nord Stream 1 and 2, right? He finished his term as chief of Germany and goes to the board of Gazprom to get money from the Russians. This is clearly a conflict of interest, and this is clearly corruption. So nothing was done also in this regard, and now Germany is facing a crisis of energy. Never seen before, because no actual step was taken against the erosion of the democratic system around the world. So we allowed all of these countries to decay in autocratic systems, and we did nothing. And now the international community is facing serious challenges coming up to the nuclear threat. So this is like the consequences of the lack of institutional and social actions against this phenomenon of the tax evasion, money laundering, right, and tax havens. So, in the face of these developments that have not been checked by institutional response and ethics, we have to come out with new formulas. We have a broken international law system. We have new actors that claim to be a part of this international system that deserve to have a seat in institutions such as the Security Council. So if we want to solve these issues, we need to bring back countries like India, because India represents 1/3 of the world population. So it makes no sense that they don't have a real weight in the international law. And we need to go back to the basics also in the international law, something that we can all agree with these foes that we have in the West. Foes, I quote, like with this very big, like China and India, right? We need to find a common language with these people. And I believe the common language with these countries, with the global ecumenic, would be the fight against corruption, because the rule of law and the transparency is something that we can all easily agree. And it's something that in these countries, in the Confucianist tradition of China, it is well established that corruption is one of the worst crimes, something that is not the case in the West. So we need to bring back these actors to the international law and open a very sincere, honest dialogue with them. And efforts have been made already, at least in our region, Latin America, to recompose the international law system. So we want to, in Latin America, we have the Inter-American system of human rights, such as you have the European system of human rights and the European Union system, right, which was made to keep the countries together, right? That was the purpose of the Council of Europe. So we have our own system of political integration in Latin America. We're right now doing efforts to bring back Venezuela and to bring Venezuela in this international system, because the international rule of law and the work of judges guarantee the justice purpose of the law, right? So I believe, for example, that international law constitutes a vertical check, judicial check, for the wrongdoings of the state. Because international law has a focus on the people, against the state, against the abuse of the state through technique. So this means of international cooperation would help us greatly to fight for this solution. So we need, first of all, more international agreements dealing with the issue of corruption, tax evasion, right? And also we need to strengthen judicial independence, as my two previous colleagues were very right in manifesting that it is urgent to protect judicial independence in the national level, not only in the international level, but also in the international and the local level. So we have the case, for instance, of Peru, where there's a case against put up by the Constitutional Court of Peru against the state of Peru, because the government of Alberto Fujimori, again an autocratic leader, was harming judicial independence. So they went to the international community, to the international law, and American court said judicial independence is a prerequisite of the enjoyment of the entire Bill of Rights. So to close up, like the main purpose of this paper is that we need, as a precondition to make this possible, to do a big exception on the statutory limitations. Remember, this means that crimes can only be prosecuted during a certain amount of time. Crimes such as corruption should not be subject to this limitation. They could be prosecuted at any time, that's how it should be, but also they should be able to be prosecuted at an international level. So this would be, I think, a bit of time. Thank you so much.